In Beverly Hills, California, behind the gates of an $8.5 million estate, lived the Burns-Morrison family. The two-story Mediterranean-style mansion with its manicured lawns and azure swimming pool represented everything 19-year-old Jake Morrison was supposed to be grateful for. It was March 2019, and for the past 5 years, this house had been his home. A constant reminder of his mother's decision to leave their modest life behind. Michael Burns, Jake's stepfather, had built his reputation as one of Los Angeles's most successful criminal defense attorneys. A Harvard law graduate with a winning record of 92% in high-profile cases, Burns provided his new family with a lifestyle that Jake's biological father, Robert Morrison, a middle school history teacher in Van Nuys, could never afford. Catherine Morrison Burns, Jake's mother, had transformed from a public elementary school teacher in the San Fernando Valley into a Beverly Hills socialite. In 2014, she left Robert Morrison after 15 years of marriage, taking Jake and his sister Lily with her. The divorce proceedings were swift, with Michael Burns handling all legal aspects. Within 6 months, Catherine had married Burns and moved the children into his Beverly Hills estate. The mansion boasted 7 bedrooms, 9 bathrooms, a professional-grade kitchen where their private chef prepared meals, and a wood-paneled study where Michael Burns often worked late into the night. Jake's room, decorated with expensive furniture he never chose, overlooked the pool area. His younger sister, Lily, 13, occupied the room across the hall, her space filled with the latest electronics and designer clothes, all attempts by Michael to win her affection. Despite the material comfort, police records would later reveal that Jake's behavioral issues began shortly after the move. Between 2014 and 2019, he was suspended twice from Beverly Hills High School for fighting, and received 3 citations for underage drinking. Michael Burns used his connections to keep these incidents off Jake's permanent record, a fact that only deepened the teenager's resentment. Documentation from Dr. Nancy Wilson, the family therapist, indicated growing tensions within the household. In sessions conducted between January and March 2019, Jake expressed significant anger toward his stepfather's attempts to replace his biological father. Dr. Chen's notes specifically referenced Jake's statement. "He thinks he can buy us like he buys everything else. Every time he tries to act like my dad, I want to punch something." Catherine Morrison Burns's personal diary, later recovered by investigators, revealed her increasing concern about Jake's behavior. In an entry dated February 15, 2019, she wrote, "Jake barely speaks to Michael anymore. When he does, it's with such contempt. I'm beginning to wonder if moving here was the right decision. The money and security seemed so important then, but now I'm watching my son become a stranger." Security camera footage from their gated community showed Jake leaving the house at odd hours, often returning in the early morning. Credit card statements reflected increasing withdrawals from ATMs in less affluent areas of Los Angeles, particularly near an establishment known as the Black Dragon. By March 2019, Jake Morrison stood at a crossroads. On paper, he had everything. Acceptance to UCLA for the fall semester, secured through Michael's alumni connections, a new BMW M4 for his 19th birthday, and financial security most teenagers could only dream of. Police investigation records indicate that Jake Morrison first entered the Black Dragon, a notorious biker bar in East Los Angeles, on March 15, 2019. Security camera footage shows him arriving in his BMW M4, wearing designer clothes that immediately marked him as an outsider. The establishment, according to LAPD reports, had been under surveillance for suspected connections to organized crime, particularly auto theft and drug trafficking. Marcus "Snake" Sullivan, age 34, was a well-known figure to law enforcement. With 3 prior convictions for grand theft auto and 1 for assault with a deadly weapon, Sullivan had served 8 years in San Quentin State Prison before being released in 2017. As the leader of the Street Kings motorcycle gang, he had a reputation for recruiting vulnerable young men from affluent backgrounds. CCTV footage from the bar shows Sullivan approaching Jake within minutes of his arrival. According to witness statements later collected by detectives, Sullivan approached Jake saying, "Rich boys usually don't last 5 minutes in here. Let's see what you're made of." The same footage shows Sullivan buying Jake a beer and introducing him to other gang members. The core members of the Street Kings whom Jake met that night included Anthony "Tony" Ramirez, age 31, chief mechanic and document forger. Richard Rick Kovach, age 28, former MMA fighter working as the bar's bouncer. James Diesel Patterson, age 29, weapons specialist. Carlos Ghost Martinez, age 26, expert car thief. Bar receipts and credit card statements show Jake's increasing presence at the Black Dragon. From March 15th to April 1st, he visited twice a week. By mid-April, he was there almost every night, often staying until closing time at 2 a.m. His bank records reveal increasing cash withdrawals, typically $200 to $500 per visit. The turning point came on April 23, 2019. Security footage shows Jake participating in a high-stakes poker game in the bar's back room. According to witness testimonies, he lost $5,000 to Sullivan in what was later revealed to be a rigged game. Cell phone records show Jake making 3 panicked calls to his bank at 1:23 a.m., attempting to transfer more funds. Sullivan's method of recruitment, as documented in previous LAPD investigations, followed a consistent pattern. After engineering a significant debt, he would offer the victim an opportunity to work it off. In Jake's case, surveillance photos taken by undercover officers show him acting as a lookout during a car theft operation on April 25th, just 2 days after the poker game. Over the next 2 weeks, Jake's involvement escalated. Traffic cameras captured him driving stolen vehicles to various locations around Los Angeles County. The gang specialized in high-end vehicles, Mercedes, BMW, and Porsche models, which were either dismantled for parts or shipped overseas through Long Beach Port. Cell phone records reveal extensive communication between Jake and Sullivan. Between April 23 and May 15th, they exchanged 147 calls and 392 text messages. In wiretapped conversations from May 2019, Sullivan can be heard cultivating Jake's trust, saying, "Blood ain't always thicker than water, kid. Your real family's right here." Dr. Chen's therapy notes from this period show Jake missing scheduled sessions. In their final meeting on May 10th, she documented his newfound defensive attitude toward questions about his late-night activities and new associations. She noted his repeated references to finding people who actually understand me and real brothers who have my back. By mid-May 2019, Jake Morrison had become fully immersed in the Street Kings operations. Bank records show he had stopped making withdrawals. He was now making deposits, typically between $2,000 and $5,000 in cash, proceeds from what FBI agents would later identify as his role in the gang's auto theft ring. Jake Morrison's involvement with the Street Kings had evolved from casual association to active participation in criminal activities. Police records document his involvement in at least 12 confirmed car thefts, with estimated profits exceeding $300,000 for the gang. Surveillance footage from the Black Dragon showed Morrison spending 4 to 5 nights per week at the establishment. A critical incident occurred when Michael Burns received notification of Jake's academic probation from UCLA, citing failing grades and poor attendance. Security cameras at the Burns-Morrison residence captured footage of a heated argument between Jake and his stepfather. Witnesses reported hearing shouting about wasting opportunities and throwing life away. Later that night, bar surveillance footage shows Jake arriving at the Black Dragon, visibly agitated. Audio recording from the bar's security system captured a conversation between an intoxicated Jake and Marcus Sullivan. Transcribed portions of the conversation reveal Jake saying, "I hate him. Sometimes I just want to." The sentence remained unfinished, but Sullivan's response was recorded clearly. "Tell me more about your stepdad, kid. Sounds like he needs to be taught a lesson." This exchange would later be identified by investigators as the catalyst for the gang's subsequent actions. Over the following weeks, cell phone records show a marked increase in communication between Sullivan and other gang members. The gang began systematically gathering information about the Burns-Morrison household through careful manipulation of Jake's drunken conversations. Bar surveillance footage from multiple nights shows Sullivan and other gang members encouraging Jake to talk about his home life, particularly focusing on questions about the house's security systems and his stepfather's schedule. Without realizing the significance, Jake revealed crucial details about the residence, including a safe in Michael Burns's study containing approximately $200,000 in cash, his mother's jewelry collection valued at over $500,000, Michael Burns's collection of luxury watches including rare pieces worth over $100,000 each, the house's security system code, the family's typical daily schedules, location of spare keys, blind spots in the security camera coverage. FBI analysis of surveillance footage shows Sullivan and his associates taking detailed notes during these conversations. Cell phone data reveals increased activity between gang members following each of Jake's revelations, with multiple calls to known fence operations, specializing in high-end jewelry and watches. Dr. Chen's final therapy notes express serious concern about Jake's mental state. She documented his increasing hostility toward his stepfather and what she termed dangerous idealization of his new associates. She had scheduled an emergency session with Catherine Morrison Burns, but the meeting would never take place. Bank records from this period show Jake's personal account had accumulated over $40,000 in deposits from unknown sources. However, his credit card statements reveal continued heavy drinking and gambling at the Black Dragon, suggesting the gang was allowing him to win at cards to maintain his trust and continue extracting information. The Street Kings had compiled enough intelligence about the Burns-Morrison residence to begin planning what they initially presented to their associates as a simple burglary. However, wiretapped conversations between gang members, later recovered by investigators, revealed their true intentions were far more sinister. Sullivan was recorded telling his lieutenant, "Rich boy's given us everything we need. Time to clean house." Police investigation records detail the Street Kings' methodical preparation for what was ultimately planned as a home invasion. Surveillance camera footage from neighboring properties shows gang members in various vehicles conducting reconnaissance of the Burns-Morrison residence throughout early July 2019. Cell phone tower data confirms the presence of known gang members in the vicinity during these periods. The gang created detailed documentation of the family's routines, gathered primarily from Jake's unwitting disclosures. Their notes, later recovered from Sullivan's apartment, documented all aspects of the family's daily life, security measures, and home access points. The level of detail in their planning demonstrated a careful and methodical approach to the intended crime. The gang scheduled the operation for July 15, 2019. Cell phone records show a call from Marcus Sullivan to Jake Morrison at 11:23 p.m. The FBI's voice recording analysis captured Sullivan instructing Jake about a big operation planned for that night. Jake's cell phone GPS data shows him leaving the Black Dragon parking lot at 11:31 p.m. Traffic cameras captured 5 vehicles converging near the Burns-Morrison residence. A black van without plates driven by Carlos Martinez contained James Patterson, Anthony Ramirez, and Richard Kovach. Security footage shows them wearing tactical gear and black masks. Jake Morrison arrived in his BMW at 11:45 p.m. Security camera footage from the property's entrance shows him immediately noticing the tactical gear and masks. Audio recording from one gang member's dropped phone captured Jake's growing panic as he questioned what was happening. The same recording documented Sullivan's response, pressing a .45 caliber handgun to Jake's temple and demanding he open the door. Forensic analysis later confirmed this weapon as the murder weapon. The recovered text messages between gang members revealed their extensive planning. They had developed a comprehensive strategy for entering and securing the property, managing the occupants, and acquiring their targeted valuables. The messages clearly indicated their intention to leave no witnesses. Security footage shows Jake, now wearing a mask provided by Sullivan, approaching the keypad with trembling hands. The timestamp shows him hesitating for 47 seconds before entering the code, while Sullivan kept the gun trained on him. The investigation concluded that Jake had no prior knowledge of the gang's true intentions. His cell phone records show no involvement in the planning discussions, and text message analysis reveals his belief that the night's activities would involve another car theft operation. FBI analysts reviewed hundreds of hours of surveillance footage and thousands of text messages between gang members in the weeks leading up to the incident. Their investigation revealed a carefully orchestrated plan that had been in development since Jake first mentioned his stepfather's safe and valuable collections. Surveillance footage from neighboring properties showed the gang conducting multiple drive-bys of the residence in the days leading up to the attack. They documented shift changes of security patrols, tested blind spots in the camera coverage, and monitored the family's routines. Recovered dashcam footage from Patterson's vehicle captures Sullivan's final instructions to the crew moments before they entered the property, emphasizing their lethal intentions. This statement would later become crucial evidence in the prosecution's case for premeditated murder. The security system was disabled at 11:52 p.m. 6 minutes later, the first gunshot would be heard by neighbors, marking the beginning of what would become one of Beverly Hills' most notorious home invasion murders. The investigation would later reveal that the gang had already arranged buyers for the expected stolen goods, indicating they had planned this operation well in advance. Multiple burner phones recovered from Sullivan's apartment contained communications with known fence operations specializing in high-end jewelry and watches. The home invasion of the Burns-Morrison residence began at 11:58 p.m. on July 15, 2019. Security camera footage shows the gang entering through the service entrance. Their plan for a quick robbery was immediately compromised when they discovered Michael Burns awake in his study, watching a late-night television show. Michael Burns, upon hearing noises downstairs, armed himself with an aluminum baseball bat from his sports memorabilia collection. He encountered the intruders in the main hallway. Blood evidence and impact patterns indicate a violent struggle occurred, during which Burns managed to strike Richard Kovach, fracturing his collarbone. This was followed by 2 gunshots at 12:03 a.m. Medical examiner's report confirms Michael Burns died from a single gunshot wound to the chest, fired from approximately 6 feet away. The bullet was later matched to Sullivan's .45 caliber handgun. Catherine Morrison Burns was recorded descending the main staircase at 12:04 a.m. Home security audio captured her recognition of Jake despite his mask, followed by her scream. Neighbors reported hearing her final words begging Sullivan to spare them. The second gunshot was recorded at 12:05 a.m. Autopsy reports show Catherine died instantly from a gunshot wound to the head. Lily Morrison, age 13, was documented by hallway cameras emerging from her bedroom at 12:06 a.m. The security footage shows her frozen in fear at the top of the stairs. A third gunshot was recorded at 12:07 a.m. The medical examiner's report indicates Lily was killed by a single shot to the chest. While James Patterson and Anthony Ramirez emptied the safe and collected valuables, security cameras captured Jake Morrison standing motionless in the foyer. FBI behavioral analysts later noted his state of catatonic shock in the footage. The gang spent approximately 8 minutes gathering valuables, among them the contents of the wall safe, Catherine's jewelry collection, Michael's watch collection, additional cash found in the master bedroom, various portable electronics. DNA evidence collected at the scene matched multiple blood samples. Spatter patterns indicated the precise locations of each victim when shot. Shell casing analysis confirmed all 3 fatal shots came from Sullivan's weapon. The crime scene investigators documented bloody footprints throughout the house, later matched to the gang members' boots. They left in separate vehicles, taking different routes to avoid detection. Jake Morrison was forced into Sullivan's car at gunpoint, leaving his BMW in the driveway. The bodies were discovered at 8:45 a.m. the next morning when the housekeeper arrived for work. Emergency response recordings document her hysterical 911 call. First responders found the house ransacked, with bloodstains in multiple locations. The safe was empty, its door left open. Total estimated value of stolen items exceeded $1.2 million. However, forensic accountants later discovered that Michael Burns had recently moved most of his liquid assets to offshore accounts, leaving significantly less cash in the home safe than the gang had anticipated. Crime scene photographs detail the final moments of each victim. Michael Burns was found face down in the hallway, still gripping the baseball bat. Catherine Morrison Burns lay at the bottom of the stairs, her hand reaching toward where Jake had been standing. Lily Morrison's body was discovered at the top of the staircase, still in her pajamas. Following an extensive 3-day manhunt, LAPD officers located Jake Morrison at the Sun Valley Motel on July 18, 2019. Arresting officers reported he was heavily intoxicated, with a blood alcohol level of 0.24. A search of his person revealed a crumpled family photograph from the previous Christmas celebration. He offered no resistance during the arrest. Marcus Sullivan and the remaining Street Kings members were apprehended during a coordinated FBI raid on July 25, 2019. The operation recovered approximately 60% of the stolen items, including Catherine Morrison Burns's jewelry and several of Michael Burns's watches. The cash was never recovered. During the subsequent trial, all gang members testified against Jake Morrison. Their testimonies painted him as the mastermind who meticulously planned his family's murder. Sullivan provided the prosecution with recorded conversations from the Black Dragon, carefully edited to suggest premeditation on Jake's part. The prosecution presented extensive evidence, including security footage, wiretap recordings, cellular data, and forensic analysis. However, the defense argued that Jake was a victim of manipulation, highlighting his age and the gang's documented history of exploiting vulnerable youth. Robert Morrison, Jake's biological father, attended every day of the 6-week trial. Court transcripts record his testimony about Jake's behavioral changes following the divorce and remarriage. His victim impact statement described the loss of not only his son to prison, but also his former wife and stepdaughter to violence. The jury deliberated for 72 hours before reaching their verdict. Jake Morrison was found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of armed robbery, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder. The judge, citing the heinous nature of the crimes, sentenced him to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Marcus Sullivan received multiple life sentences plus 50 years. Other gang members received sentences ranging from 40 years to life. Richard Kovac accepted a plea deal in exchange for his testimony, receiving 25 years with the possibility of parole. Prison records from California State Prison document Jake Morrison's first year of incarceration. Mental health evaluations note severe depression, persistent nightmares, and acute post-traumatic stress disorder. His cellmate reported frequent night terrors, where Jake would wake up screaming his sister's name. The case has since become a cautionary tale in Los Angeles law enforcement training, highlighting the sophisticated manipulation tactics used by criminal organizations to exploit vulnerable youth from affluent backgrounds. Robert Morrison established a foundation in Lily's name, providing support to children affected by domestic violence and helping young people escape gang influence. He has never visited his son in prison. Jake Morrison, now housed in maximum security, declined all interview requests from media and researchers. His only public statement was made during his sentencing, expressing profound remorse and acknowledging that his desire to rebel against his stepfather had led to unimaginable tragedy. The Beverly Hills Police Department maintains the case file as a teaching tool for new detectives, demonstrating how quickly juvenile rebellion can escalate into irreversible tragedy when exploited by organized crime.